If you touched it, you died. Not metaphorically, not eventually, instantly. In the middle of a barren desert, among a nation of former slaves with no factories, no machines, and no margin for error, an object was built that carried a death sentence in its design. One wrong measurement, one exposed surface, one unauthorized touch, and the result was immediate collapse. No wound, no struggle, just life gone. This object was not symbolic. It was not decorative, and it was not forgiving. It was the Ark of the Covenant, and everything about it defies what should have been possible at that moment in history. The story begins not in a workshop, but on a mountain wrapped in smoke. Moses stands alone on the summit of Sinai, while thunder rolls and fire burns around him. What he receives there is not poetry or metaphor. It is a technical specification, exact dimensions, exact materials, exact methods. No creative freedom, no improvisation. God does not say, build something meaningful. He says, build this, exactly this. Length, width, height, materials, order. Even the sequence of assembly is dictated, because this object is not meant to represent power, it is meant to contain it. And that is where the first impossible problem appears. Who was going to build it? Israel had just escaped Egypt after 4 centuries of forced labor. These were brickmakers, field workers, people whose hands were trained for survival, not precision metallurgy. They had no workshops, no measuring instruments, no furnaces capable of controlled temperatures. Yet God demanded goldwork at a level that rivaled royal treasuries. The solution was unprecedented. A man named Bezalel was chosen, not because of lineage, status, or leadership, but because God filled him with skill. Not inspiration, skill. The text is explicit. Wisdom for gold, understanding for craftsmanship, knowledge for precision. This is the first time in biblical history that someone is described as being filled with the Spirit of God, not to preach, not to lead, not to prophesy, but to build. Bezalel did not improvise, he executed. But skill alone did not solve the second problem, materials. Gold was required, not plated, not alloyed, pure, inside and out. Where does a nation of runaway slaves find enough gold to encase a chest nearly 4 feet long in solid metal? The answer lies in the night they fled Egypt. Before leaving, the Israelites asked the Egyptians for silver, gold, and garments. And the Egyptians, terrified after 10 devastating plagues, gave willingly. Jewelry, bracelets, rings, necklaces, elite clothing, wealth accumulated over generations. It was not theft. It was unpaid wages collected after 400 years. When the time came, the people brought everything. So much gold that Moses had to command them to stop giving. But gold alone was not enough. God demanded acacia wood, one of the hardest, most durable woods in the region, resistant to rot, resistant to insects, nearly indestructible, perfect for decades of travel through heat, sand, and humidity. Then came the fabrics, fine linen, blue, purple, scarlet. Purple alone changes everything. In the ancient world, purple dye was more valuable than gold. 1 gram required thousands of crushed sea mollusks. Entire coastlines were devoted to producing it. Kings wore it, empires controlled it. And yet God demanded threads of it for a people living in tents, which means the Israelites carried elite Egyptian garments with them into the desert. Noble materials, repurposed for a holy object. Bezalel now had what no craftsman should have had in that environment: rare materials, divine skill, and zero tolerance for error. The ark's dimensions were absolute: 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, 27 inches high, not approximate, exact. He measured using knotted cords, an Egyptian technique known for precision. Each knot placed intentionally, each cut deliberate. Then came the most dangerous phase, the overlay. The ark was not merely decorated with gold, it was entombed in it, inside and out. 3 layers in total. acacia wood core, gold lining inside, gold plating outside. Gold is soft, too soft. Hammer it too thin and it tears, too thick and it becomes unworkable. Bezalel had to beat it to the precise thickness where it remained flexible but intact. Every surface had to be covered. A single exposed grain of wood would invalidate the entire object. This was not symbolism, this was engineering. By the time the overlay was complete, the ark weighed over 300 pounds. Too heavy for one man, too dangerous for many. Then came the crown, a rim of gold running around the top. Not decorative, structural. It reinforced the edges, protected the overlay, and, whether Bezalel knew it or not, completed a design that modern engineers would recognize instantly. Conductor, insulator, conductor, gold, wood, gold, a perfect capacitor, an object capable of storing and releasing energy. And on top of it, Bezalel placed the most dangerous components of all, 2 cherubim hammered from a single piece of gold with the mercy seat itself, not cast, not assembled. One continuous form. Their wings stretched toward each other, faces angled downward, creating a focal point between them. A convergence, the place where God said he would meet man. When the ark was finished, it was already lethal, but it was still empty. What went inside transformed it from a masterpiece into a weapon. The tablets of the law, stone slabs written by the finger of God himself, not copies, originals. The rod of Aaron, a dead staff that flowered overnight, proving divine authority, and a jar of manna, bread from heaven that normally rotted within hours, yet remained preserved inside the ark for generations. Law, authority, provision, contained together. But the ark was never meant to be approached casually. Only one tribe could carry it. Only one family within that tribe. Only after days of purification. Only using poles. Never by hand. Because the ark did not tolerate familiarity. It did not respond to good intentions. It responded to obedience. And in the chapters ahead, the world will learn what happens when those rules are broken. Because the ark did not just sit in a tent, it went to war, and entire cities fell because of it. The ark was never meant to be moved often. That alone should tell you something. Most sacred objects in the ancient world were portable. Idols, banners, symbols carried into battle to inspire troops. The ark was different. It was stationary by design. When it moved, everything stopped. The entire nation reorganized around it. Because moving the ark was not transportation. It was a controlled operation. Only one group was allowed near it, the Levites of a specific family line. Even among them, access was restricted. They could not touch it. They could not look at it uncovered. They could not approach it casually. Preparation took days, ritual washings multiple times a day, abstinence, fasting, sacrificial offerings, total separation from ordinary life. Not because God was arbitrary, but because the ark was not ordinary. When the camp needed to move, priests entered the inner sanctuary first. They removed the veil that separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies and used that same veil to cover the ark itself. Then came a layer of animal hide, then a cloth of pure blue over everything. Only then were the carrying poles inserted through the gold rings on its sides. Those poles were never removed, ever. They were not handles, they were barriers, because the ark could not be stabilized by hand. If it tipped, it tipped. If it fell, it fell. No human was allowed to intervene, and the reason becomes clear when someone finally did. Years later, King David decided to bring the ark to Jerusalem. It was a political and spiritual moment. The ark represented God's presence. Having it in the capital meant divine favor. But David made a critical mistake. Instead of following the instructions given generations earlier, he chose efficiency. They placed the ark on a new cart pulled by oxen. It looked respectful, practical, even celebratory, until the oxen stumbled. The cart jolted, the ark shifted. For a split second, it was about to fall. A man named Uzzah reached out, instinctively, automatically, to steady it. The moment his hand touched the ark, he dropped dead. No warning, no time to repent, no explanation given. The celebration stopped instantly. David was shaken, angry, confused. But the message was unmistakable. The ark does not respond to intention. It responds to instruction. That same reality played out on a far larger scale, on the battlefield. When Israel went to war, the ark sometimes went with them. Not as a charm, not as a guarantee, but as a declaration that God Himself was present. Before battles, leaders consulted God in front of the ark, using sacred stones carried by the high priest. The answer was binary: yes or no. Go or do not go. Ignore the answer, and disaster followed. When the ark was positioned during war, it was not placed at the front. It stood behind the army, visible to both sides. A psychological weapon. Israel's soldiers fought knowing God was with them. Their enemies fought knowing the same thing. Jericho learned this the hard way. The city was fortified beyond anything Israel could breach. Thick walls, elevated defenses, a military stronghold, no siege engines, no battering rams, no assault. Instead, God gave instructions that sounded absurd. March around the city once a day for 6 days. 7 priests blowing trumpets in front of the ark. Silence from the people. On the 7th day, march 7 times. Then shout. No attack, no climb, no breach, just sound. And when the shout came, the walls collapsed outward. Not inward, as they would from an invasion. Outward, as if something from inside the city had pushed them down. Archaeology confirmed it centuries later. The walls fell in a way consistent with internal collapse, not external force. How did it happen? Some say divine intervention without mechanism. Others point to resonance, sound waves at specific frequencies destabilizing foundations. Still others note the ark's construction again. Gold, wood, gold, capable of storing charge. A massive release of energy synchronized with sound, vibration, and movement. No one can prove the method, but everyone agrees on the result. Jericho fell without a single Israelite touching the wall. Yet the ark was not a guaranteed victory. Israel learned that lesson painfully. During one campaign against the Philistines, Israel brought the ark into battle while the nation was deep in corruption. They assumed God's presence would override their behavior. It didn't. 30,000 soldiers died. The ark was captured, and the Philistines celebrated, briefly. They placed the ark in the temple of their god, Dagon. Overnight, Dagon's statue fell face down before the ark. They set it back up. The next morning, it fell again, this time shattered. Then people began to get sick. Tumors, panic, death. The ark was moved from city to city. Each place suffered the same fate. Finally, the Philistines returned it to Israel, sending it away with offerings, desperate to be rid of it. They had learned the same rule. The ark is not controlled by those who carry it. It responds only to the one who gave the instructions. But war was not the ark's most dangerous function. Once a year, it became the center of the most lethal ritual in the ancient world, the Day of Atonement. On that day, only one man on earth was allowed to stand before the ark, the high priest. Preparation took a full week. Separation from family, continuous purification, review of every instruction, no room for memory failure. On the day itself, he bathed completely, put on plain white linen, no gold, no ornamentation. He sacrificed a bull for his own sin first. Then he took a censer filled with hot coals and finely ground incense. This was not symbolic. The smoke was a shield. He entered the Holy of Holies and filled the space with incense until the ark was completely obscured, because to see the full manifestation of God's presence without protection meant death. Only then did he return with blood and sprinkle it on the mercy seat, 7 times. Not 8, not 6, 7. The entire ritual inside the Holy of Holies lasted minutes. no witnesses, no backup, no rescue. If he made a mistake, he died there, and no one could retrieve the body. This was the purpose of the Ark at its core, not destruction, not warfare, but controlled access to the presence of God. A meeting point between the divine and the human, mediated by obedience, blood, and precision. And then one day, it vanished. No battle, no collapse, no final scene, just gone. Which leads to the question that has haunted history for over 2,000 years. Where is it now, and what happens if it is found? That answer comes next. In 586 BC, Jerusalem burned. The Babylonian army poured through the city, tearing down walls, slaughtering defenders, and setting fire to the most sacred structure Israel had ever built, the Temple of Solomon. This was the house constructed specifically for one purpose, to contain the Ark of the Covenant in the Holy of Holies. When the Babylonians breached the inner chambers, they cataloged everything. They were meticulous. Gold vessels, lampstands, bowls, utensils, every sacred object was listed, melted, or carried away. Babylonian records survive to this day, detailing temple treasures taken as spoils of war. But one object is missing from every list: the Ark. When soldiers entered the Holy of Holies, it was gone. No broken remains, no melted gold, no triumphant inscription claiming its capture. The most powerful object in Israel's history vanished without a trace. And from that moment on, the Ark never appears again in the biblical record. No prophet mentions it. No king displays it. No enemy boasts of possessing it. It simply disappears. That silence is not accidental. It means one of two things happened. Either the Ark was destroyed before the Babylonians arrived, or someone made sure it was hidden so well that even conquering empires never found it. And that question has driven scholars, theologians, archaeologists, and intelligence agencies for centuries. Three theories dominate the discussion. The first is destruction. Some argue the Babylonians melted it down for gold, but this theory collapses under scrutiny. The Babylonians recorded everything valuable they took. Gold objects were carefully inventoried. The Ark, arguably the most valuable item in the entire temple, would have been listed. It wasn't. The second theory is concealment beneath Jerusalem. Ancient Jewish texts suggest the priests knew the invasion was coming. According to tradition, they removed the Ark before the city fell and hid it in chambers beneath the Temple Mount. Modern archaeology confirms that the area beneath Jerusalem is riddled with sealed tunnels, chambers, and passageways, many inaccessible today due to political and religious restrictions. In 1981, a rabbi named Yehuda Getz supervised an excavation near the Western Wall. His team uncovered a blocked tunnel leading directly toward the location of the Holy of Holies. Getz believed the Ark was there. Before further exploration could take place, the tunnel was sealed with concrete by authorities. Excavation was halted. Access permanently denied. To this day, no one is allowed to dig beneath the Temple Mount. The third theory takes the Ark far from Jerusalem, to Ethiopia. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Ark was taken centuries earlier by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. It is said to be housed today in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in the city of Aksum. There is one guardian, always one. He is chosen young. He spends his entire life inside the church compound. He never leaves. He never reveals what he sees. When he nears death, he selects his successor. No one else is allowed inside. No photographs, no measurements, no scientific tests. Church officials themselves are forbidden from entering. Journalists have tried. Archaeologists have asked. Governments have requested access. All have been denied. The current guardian claims he has seen the Ark, but he will not describe it. And then there is the fourth shadow that hangs over the mystery. In the 20th century, the Ark drew the attention of men who believed power was not symbolic. It was usable. Nazi Germany's leadership became obsessed with occult artifacts tied to ancient authority. Heinrich Himmler believed relics like the Ark could provide supernatural dominance. Expeditions were sent across Europe, including to Montségur in France, where it was rumored medieval knights had hidden sacred objects. They found nothing, but the search itself revealed something chilling. Even modern regimes believed the Ark was not just religious history, but a weapon. Which brings us to the final unsettling question. What happens if the Ark is found? Because the Ark was never neutral. It did not empower everyone equally. It did not respond to curiosity or ambition. It responded only to obedience. Every recorded incident follows the same pattern. When approached according to God's instructions, it brought protection, guidance, and victory. When approached casually, arrogantly, or incorrectly, it killed. Instantly. If the Ark still exists, it is not dormant. It does not age. It does not degrade. Its power was never mechanical. It was conditional. And that raises a possibility no one likes to confront. The Ark was not lost. It was removed, because humanity was no longer capable of approaching it safely. One day, according to prophetic texts, the Ark is mentioned again, not as a rediscovered relic, but as something no longer needed, because access to God would no longer require a box, a veil, blood, or a single man risking death once a year. Until then, the Ark remains history's most dangerous missing object, not because of what it is made of, but because of what happens when the presence it once contained returns. And if it is ever uncovered again, the real question won't be where it was hidden. It will be whether the world is ready for what follows.